guy didn't just show up to be a laborer or a rock truck driver or whatever. I mean, there's no use staying our way, and you got to get out on top.
This story captures the heart as a game-changing moment unfolded in the world of Gold Rush, shaking the entire fan base. Everyone thought Tony Beets would win the game as usual, but this season, Kevin Beets made a move that stunned the entire Yukon. Imagine, a quiet morning, the machines are running, the crew is busy working, and suddenly Kevin's scanner detects an anomaly that could be worth up to $45 million. But the twist is that Tony has no idea. This suspense makes the entire story dangerous. Without a word, Kevin reaches the deep cut. The ground wasn't soft, it was unusually solid. The crew couldn't understand what lay beneath, but Kevin's face held a distinct confidence. When the borehole made its first metallic clang, it was such a moment that even the camera froze. Kevin quietly pinpointed a hidden pocket right under Tony's nose, the very spot Tony had been digging for months. The biggest shock came when the AI depth model read, a high-density gold pocket, almost double the size Tony was expecting. And when Kevin extracted the sample, pure, thick gold traces, so clean that even experts exclaimed, "This is jackpot-level material." If you haven't subscribed yet, do it right away. Because if you miss the next twist, the world will see how Kevin is executing the biggest move of Gold Rush, and you'll be left behind. Tony's confident but wrong. Guest Tony Beets was brimming with confidence this day. He believed the biggest jackpot lay in the zone he was digging. The crew followed suit, as Tony's experience had always proven it correct. But this time, the ground was telling a different story. There was a strange, heavy feel in the air, and the machines were repeatedly making uneven vibrations. Tony repeatedly relied on his maps and previous readings. He was completely convinced that if the jackpot existed anywhere, it was right where he was. The crew followed the same plan without question because everyone believed Tony's instinct never failed. But the new ground readings didn't match Tony's previous assumptions. Someone noticed this, but no one dared to speak up. Tony didn't even let himself realize that he might be going in the wrong direction. He pushed the machines deeper, hoping to find the jackpot in the next bucket. But the reality was that the real game was going on right next to him, and he had no idea. The crew's eyes were filled with excitement, but the true underground jackpot awaited someone else, and that name was Kevin Beets. Kevin's secret depth scan. Away from Tony, Kevin was quietly working in his corner. He had noticed that the ground's vibrations and density were behaving strangely, so without telling anyone, he ran a high-resolution depth scan. As the AI model screen blinked, a wild spike appeared, sharp enough to shock any seasoned miner. Kevin stared at the screen for a few seconds and immediately realized this reading was not normal. This spike meant something very heavy and very valuable was hidden beneath. But Kevin quickly decided not to tell anyone. He lowered the scanner's brightness and behaved casually, as if nothing special had been found. The crew watched him from afar, thinking he was just conducting a routine check. But Kevin's mind was filled with excitement and fear. Excited because he was standing on the brink of perhaps the biggest discovery of his career, and afraid that if Tony found out, all the dynamics would change. He quietly saved the data, turned off the scanner, and calmed himself with a deep breath. At that very moment, Kevin realized that today could change the history of the gold rush, and that perhaps for the first time, it would be his son, not Tony, who would find the jackpot. First strong reading, 45 and no more gold pocket. As Kevin turned on the depth scan's advanced filter, a sharp, bright spike suddenly appeared on the screen. This spike was so unusual and powerful that it took his breath away. The red-orange density line displayed by the AI model clearly indicated that something very heavy, very concentrated, and very valuable lay beneath. This wasn't a normal gold trace. It was a massive pocket. The material hidden beneath could be worth not millions, but billions. When Kevin checked the sensor's zoomed-in readings, the density was so high that the software automatically flagged it as a high-value mineral cluster. This is rare. The AI system also automatically displayed an estimated value, and Kevin was literally stunned by the number, $45 million. Finding such a large reading all at once is considered almost impossible. This was the jackpot Tony had been searching for in the Yukon for years, And now, right under his nose, that same jackpot was shining in Kevin's scanner. Excitement and shock surged through Kevin. If the crew had seen this spike, they would have rushed straight to Tony. But Kevin understood that this moment was huge, so huge that he could only rely on his instincts to handle it. He slowly lowered the screen brightness so that no one from afar could see the reading. His eyes remained fixed, as if watching a dream come true for the first time. This spike made it clear something big was about to happen today, and perhaps the entire story of the gold rush was about to change with this one decision. Kevin's silent strategy. No one tells Dad. The reading was so strong that two of the crew, seeing Kevin's reaction from a distance, knew they had detected something significant. They began to approach him in curiosity, but Kevin immediately pretended to be normal, turned off the scanner, and with a calm expression said, "Guys, it was just a normal spike. Relax." The crew didn't believe him, but Kevin's voice was unusually serious. Then he uttered the clearest and most stern line. "Don't tell Tony anything right now." The entire team fell silent. The atmosphere suddenly became heavy and tense. The crew had never seen Kevin so assertive. He's usually easygoing, but today there was a different intensity on his face. They understood this wasn't just a random reading. This was something that could change the course of the entire season. Two crew members whispered to each other, "If this is big, Tony will flip." But Kevin overheard them and repeated only one thing. "The time isn't right. No one will open their mouths right now." His tone wasn't filled with fear, but strategy. Kevin knew that if Tony found out about this now, Tony would shift his entire site, potentially robbing Kevin of the moment. Furthermore, Tony's anger could explode on the crew. So Kevin set a plan. First, he would conduct a shallow test dig, confirm, and only tell Tony when he had proof. The crew slowly backed away, but it was clear on their faces that something unusual was happening. The air was heavy, the silence louder, and the tension so intense that even the cameras could capture the vibe. Kevin took a deep breath and said to himself, "This isn't just a pocket of gold. This could be the biggest move of my life." That was the moment where the game completely changed. Tony didn't know it yet, but Kevin's silent strategy was about to land the Yukon's biggest 45mm jackpot. Borehole test. First metallic clang. Kevin quietly prepared to drill a borehole to confirm his secret readings. The crew thought it was a routine soil test, but Kevin had only one thing on his mind. If there really was a gold pocket beneath, the drill's behavior would reveal it. As soon as the machine started, the first few inches revealed soft soil, then a little thicker soil, and then suddenly the drill slowed drastically, as if something hard had hit the bottom. The crew looked at each other. This was not normal behavior. Then came the moment that changed the entire atmosphere. Suddenly, the drill made a loud, sharp, metallic clang. The sound was so loud that the cameraman standing nearby's handshake was clearly recorded. The sound had a distinct metallic echo, as if something large, solid, was buried beneath. The crew froze for a moment, as if time had stopped. This was the sign Kevin had been waiting for day and night. Such metallic resistance in a zone with gold traces usually indicates a sealed pocket or a rock-hard mineral chamber. Kevin lifted his head in a slow-motion calmness and gave a slight smile, almost unnoticeable. But it was written all over his face. Bino. This was the place. This was the moment when he was 100% sure that his secret readings weren't lying. The metallic clang of the drill was the strongest proof that the jackpot was right below him. The crew slowly broke into excited whispers. "Bro, this is big. This is really big." But deep inside, Kevin was thinking only one thing. "Don't tell Dad yet. The game has just begun." Tony busy elsewhere. Jackpot right near him. Meanwhile, Tony was completely clueless. He was pushing digging operations to another corner of the site, convinced that the real jackpot would be found there. The crew around him also believed that Tony's instincts were, as always, correct. The machines were running at full power, and Tony kept saying, "Keep pushing, the gold will come out here." He had no idea that the actual jackpot was hidden just yards away. The irony was that Tony had brought his maps to the zone Kevin was drilling in earlier in the day, but had dismissed it as a low-potential area. That's where Tony made the biggest mistake. New ground readings, AI scans, and Kevin's instincts all indicated that the jackpot was beneath that very ignored spot. But Tony was so caught up in his old calculations that he didn't get a chance to see the reality. The camera repeatedly took a shot in which Tony's heavy machines were running in the background, and Kevin's small drill in the foreground was quietly approaching the jackpot. This visual alone explained the entire drama. Tony was literally losing the season's largest gold haul of 45 Mesowern right under his nose, and he had zero clue. Some crew members took advantage of Tony's absence to carefully help Kevin, but no one said a word. Tony was so engrossed in his own world that whenever he asked the crew, "Did you find anything?" everyone would simply say, "Not yet." No one told him that the interior of the very place he had left behind was about to make history. The situation was so cinematic that it seemed as if the father-son duo were playing out their own story in opposite parts without even realizing it. One running in the wrong direction, the other quietly going to unlock the jackpot. Sample extraction, the first glimpse of thick gold. After the metallic clang of the drill, Kevin immediately ordered a soil sample to be pulled up from the borehole. The crew lowered the sample extractor, and within minutes, a tube filled with heavy, wet, thick mud emerged. From a distance, it looked like a normal, muddy cylinder, but Kevin's eyes were fixed on it. He knew the real deal was hidden inside. As he opened the tube, he saw only brown mud. But after a few seconds, a bright yellow streak suddenly appeared. Kevin wasted no time. Donning gloves, took the sample in his hand, and began gently removing the mud. As soon as the top soil cleared, the first glimpse of thick, pure, gold-like, shiny material emerged from beneath. The crew literally fell silent for a second. Then a boy shouted in excitement, "Bro, this is real jackpot material." The layer of gold was so clean and heavy that it was clear that it was part of a large sealed pocket. This wasn't a random flake. It was a genuine nugget formation, which alone could be worth thousands of dollars. The camera zoomed in to capture the gold streak, and disbelief was evident in the crew's eyes. Finding such a pure trace shining from within the mud is rare. Kevin's hands were shaking slightly, but his face held controlled confidence. He knew his reading was absolutely correct. Every grain, every sparkle indicated a massive cluster beneath, and this was just the beginning. The crew slowly whispered, "This is huge. If Tony finds out, it's game over." But Kevin uttered just one line, "We're not telling him yet." Expert data breakdown. How it made 45.1. After receiving the sample, Kevin immediately turned on the AI-powered mineral analyzer. This machine estimates the metal density, purity percentage, and approximate size of the pocket in the soil. As soon as the sample plate entered the machine, a strong signal appeared on the screen. The density was so high that the software categorized it as an exceptional mineral deposit. The purity reading was approximately 40% higher than average Yukon gold, which is rare in itself. It was clear that this wasn't a normal streak, but an exceptionally rich gold zone. The fun began when the AI model combined depth and density to arrive at an estimate. The predicted volume and purity multiplied on the screen and resulted in a number, $45 million. The crew was stunned. Kevin double-checked himself as the number seemed unbelievable. But all the readings were consistent: density high, depth perfect, and size unusually large. These three things combined create a jackpot estimate of $45 million. Kevin also had the sample verified by an external expert analyzer. As soon as the scientist saw the gold structure under the microscope, he said in his very first sentence, "This is massive." The texture of the gold indicated a rock-hard pocket, meaning it could contain both nugget clusters and solid formations. The expert also noted that such a rich formation had not been found at any Beets site in previous seasons. In the end, when all the data was compared, purity, weight estimate, volume clusters, and historical averages, the conclusion was one. This discovery could be the Yukon's biggest jackpot find of the past 10 years. The crew was shocked, but Kevin was thinking only one thing: if I reveal this at the right moment, it will change my life. Tony gradually becomes suspicious. As the day progresses, Tony begins to notice that the crew is behaving a little more quietly. Usually Kevin keeps him updated on every update, but today the atmosphere seemed a little subdued. Whenever Tony arrives at the site, The crew's faces display a strange hesitation, as if they both want to say something and hide it. The camera frequently captures Tony's suspicious gaze in close-ups, where it clearly reads, "Something's off." Tony asked random questions a couple of times. "Are the scan readings going well? Did you find any unusual spikes?" But each time the crew, with awkward pauses, simply says, "Nothing major, boss." For a veteran miner like Tony, this tone immediately sets off alarm bells. He knows that when miners lie, their voices become characteristically flat, and that tone was evident throughout today. Once he sees Kevin standing quietly with some people around a soil sample, discussing something. As Tony approached, the conversation suddenly stopped. The crew lowered their gaze to the ground. This entire body language couldn't escape Tony's gaze. He took a deep breath and wondered what Kevin was hiding from him. Slow doubts began to fill Tony's mind. Had Kevin received the jackpot reading? Did Kevin want to confirm it himself before telling him? And the biggest fear, did Kevin want to claim the jackpot himself? Tony's instincts screamed that a major twist was brewing. Tension was slowly growing heavy in the air, and the camera was capturing that invisible pressure every second. Midnight secret dig. Kevin's big risk. Kevin quietly called his trusted crew as night fell. On a cool, moonlit Yukon night, he ordered a small portable rig ready. The plan was simple but risky. He would shallow dig into the jackpot zone before Tony arrived, so he could get visual confirmation himself. The crew knew this was a huge risk, as Tony often makes random visits even at night. But Kevin's tone was so serious that everyone agreed without question. Around midnight, the machines were slowly moved to the ignored zone where the metallic clang had been found during the day. To keep the noise low, Kevin chose a small excavator, something that wouldn't make much noise even when driven from a distance. The crew's eyes were filled with excitement and fear. As the digging began, the soil that emerged from the ground was darker and heavier than before. This signaled that they were very close to the gold pocket. Kevin carefully inspected each bucket. The camera's night vision caught the sharp glint in his eyes. He pretended to be calm, knowing that the biggest discovery of his life awaited him below. One of the crew members said softly, "Bro, if Tony comes now, it's all over." Kevin simply replied, "Trust me, just a little deeper." Finally, a faint golden glow appeared as the soil was removed from the third bucket. Seeing such a clear signal, the entire team recoiled in mild shock. Kevin slowly bent down, picked up the soil, and held it closer with his flashlight. As the thick gold particles shone, his breath became heavy. This was indeed the jackpot. But the risk wasn't over yet. If Tony had arrived at that very moment, the entire strategy would have collapsed. The crew's pulses raced. Fear and excitement filled the air in equal measure. The midnight dig wasn't just digging, it was Kevin's biggest gamble. And tonight, it felt like winning the gamble. Jackpot uncovered, massive gold pocket opens. As Kevin increased his depth during the midnight dig, the soil's color suddenly changed. First dark soil, then wet clay, and then suddenly those same golden streaks. But this time not streaks, an entire chunk appeared. Kevin immediately sent the excavator further down, and as the next bucket came up, the entire scene changed. The entire bottom of the bucket was filled with shiny, thick gold chunks. Some pieces were so heavy that even the crew felt heavy to hold. As soon as the bucket was dropped to the ground, the gold literally began to spill out in a heap. The flashlight's glint of gold was so intense that even the camera couldn't capture the correct focus. The crew's faces became emotional, some with disbelief in their eyes, some with excitement, and others simply stood in silence. This was no ordinary find. This was the open door to a massive sealed pocket. Kevin himself froze for a few seconds. He had never seen so many pure, solid, heavy chunks of gold together. It was as if the earth itself had opened its treasure and placed it in his hands. A crew member whispered, "Kevin, you just found history." And truly it felt as if the biggest twist of the entire Gold Rush series was unfolding right there, at midnight. There was only the glow of gold, the cold Yukon air, and the opening of a jackpot every miner dreams of touching. Kevin's hands were trembling, but he had only one thought in his heart. If Dad saw this right now, the whole world would change. And fate seemed to have listened to him, because the next minute, the sound of footsteps began. Tony's sudden entry, everything caught up. Kevin and the crew were standing in front of the jackpot when suddenly, in the darkness, a bright flashlight appeared. Footsteps were coming closer, heavy, quick, confident steps. All the joy vanished from the crew's faces in an instant. Kevin immediately tried to cover the gold chunks, but it was too late. Torchlight slowly shone onto the dig site, and there stood Tony Beets himself. Tony first looked at the machine, then at the bucket, and then at Kevin, his eyes filled with confusion and anger. The site suddenly fell so silent, it felt as if the air had stopped. The camera captured the silent tension, as if a major showdown was about to begin. Tony took a step forward and looked at the shiny gold chunks lying on the ground, and his eyes widened. This was the first time Tony had seen such a massive operation going on without his son's knowledge. His face showed disbelief, shock, and hurt all at once. The crew stood absolutely stiff. No one dared to speak. Tony spoke softly. "Kevin, what is this?" His voice was low but extremely heavy. Kevin took a deep breath and, remaining calm, said, "Dad, this is the same pocket whose readings we got this morning. I wanted to confirm. That's why I didn't tell you." Tony didn't react, just stared longingly at the jackpot, as if trying to understand how his son had taken the biggest discovery of the season right from under his nose. The atmosphere was so tense that it felt as if the entire mining experience of 2 generations had collided in one place. The midnight dig had been exposed. The jackpot had been opened, and now, the most emotional moment of father versus son had begun. Final reveal, Tony versus Kevin. Emotional moment. Tony stood in front of the jackpot, the cool midnight air, the glint of gold, and Kevin's silent tension all added to the heavy atmosphere. Tony's eyes were filled with anger and confusion. He couldn't understand how his son could take such a drastic step without informing him. Kevin slowly took a deep breath and said in a calm voice, "Dad, I didn't do anything wrong. I just followed the data. The readings were strong, and I needed proof." His voice was steady, but the anxiety within was clearly visible. Tony remained speechless for a few seconds. His face was stiff, as if he was balancing both feeling and reality. Then he slowly glanced at the jackpot, took the gold chunks in his hand, and looked down. In that moment, Tony's anger slowly melted. The miner within him spoke. "This find is insane." Kevin simply said without any pretense, "Dad, I just wanted to get it right." Tony looked at him, and for the first time that night, a small, proud smile appeared in his eyes. This moment wasn't just about the jackpot. It was the turning point of a father-son mining legacy. Tony was stunned, but at the same time he realized that Kevin had done what a true Beets miner does: take risks, follow the data, and not let the jackpot slip away. A few moments later, Tony placed a hand on Kevin's shoulder and said, "Well, you did damn good." The crew breathed a sigh of relief. This emotional storm finally seemed to be heading toward a proud ending. The gold shine wasn't just financial. It was the victory of 2 generations. Just when everyone was breathing a little easier in the joy of the jackpot, Kevin habitually took a handheld AI scanner from his pocket, just to confirm where the pocket was. As he pointed the scanner at the ground, a slow vibration line appeared on the screen, and then suddenly a monstrous spike shot up. The spike was so wild and powerful that Kevin's face turned serious. He immediately zoomed in, and the next reading left the entire crew in shock. The AI scanner clearly indicated that a deeper vault existed approximately 30 to 35 feet below the pocket they had opened, and its gold density triple. This meant this jackpot was just the entry layer. The real treasure was still hidden below. Tony also looked at the screen, and for the first time, pure disbelief returned to his face. He exclaimed, "If this is true, we just hit something the Yukon has never seen." The crew's heartbeats quickened. All excitement turned to fear and curiosity. Kevin knelt near the ground, watching the screen, his eyes bright, as if he understood that tonight was just the beginning. Deeper vault meant a bigger gold structure, a sealed pocket, perhaps a mineral core untouched for decades. This twist was so significant that the entire team fell silent. Only the sound of the Yukon's wind could be heard. And just like in a dramatic movie, Kevin looks at the camera and says with a slight smile, "Brother, subscribe. If you miss the next twist, the world will see the biggest story of the gold rush before you."